welcome to the Doctor's Kitchen with me, Rupi. So today we're going to be doing something super quick because it is just about to go 6 and I'm going to get out of here by 6:25, 6:30. So I'm actually going to be recreating one of the dishes that I put on my Instagram earlier on this week. I was lucky enough to go to Shoreditch House and they made a beautiful piece of salmon with Puy lentils and some fennel, some beetroot in it. Well, I'm going to add a few things like fennel, actually they didn't use fennel. I'm adding some tomatoes to it, a little bit more flavour in the Puy lentils, some sun-dried tomatoes, some garlic. So hopefully it's going to go well. I haven't actually attempted this before, but yeah, I'll be alright. I'm sure it'll be edible. So first of all, what we're going to do is we're going to prep our fennel, some tomatoes and our beetroot, which I've lost. Where's my beetroot gone? Oh, here it is. Yeah, so my beetroot here. We're just going to dice this finely, chop this roughly, wrap it in some foil, and then put it into the oven at about 190 degrees centigrade. So make sure, if you're cooking along, make sure your oven's on and it's heating up. Should be super easy to do. We're going to get that underway, and as soon as we pop this into the oven, we're going to be cooking, guys. That's it. Like, as soon as you put anything in the oven, you're cooking. It's all going to be nice and relaxed. I'm not going to have to rush too much. And I'm going to teach you how to make the perfect salmon, really, or in my view, it's perfect salmon. Skin side down, 2-3 minutes on that side, and then flip it over for another minute or so. Should be nice and pink in the middle. A beautiful fleshy sort of like texture to it. It's not dry. We're going to season it afterwards, and we're going to pair it with a few other things that we're going to put in the Puy lentils. I'm not cooking the Puy lentils from scratch, shock horror, today, because I ran out of Puy lentils. So I'm using some pre-cooked Puy lentils. These are actually a really good time saver. I don't use these all the time, but yeah, they're already cooked. They've already got a little bit of flavour in them. This has got some bay leaf powder and a little bit of onion in it, but it's mainly just Puy lentils, and you just chuck them into the pan, warm up through with a few extra spices. I'm going to be using sun-dried tomato and garlic. So yeah, we're going to get on with this now. Let me teach you, or let me show you the way I'm going to do prep the fennel. So we're just going to go through it. I don't know if you can, yeah, you can probably see this. Just going to put this through here. We're going to chop this into just some like long strips, really. I've already pre-washed all the fennel and the beetroot and everything, so that really annoys me actually when we see like cooks on TV and they don't wash the veg. You just wash your, make sure you wash your veg. We're going to do strips like this. Pop that over there. I'm going to do a couple of these. A lot of people find fennel a bit too strong. Certainly if you have it raw in salads, it can be quite an overpowering vegetable to use. But when you lightly roast it like this, we're going to do it for about 15, 16 minutes or so. That flavour kind of mellows, so it shouldn't overpower. The other thing I'd say is just we're going to use a bit of the garnish on the top here, so just keep that at the end. It's going to make it nice and well presented, chefy, as I like to say. With the beetroot, we're just going to do slices so it cooks nice and evenly through. If you do the whole beetroot, it takes a little while to cook completely, and I don't have that much time, so we're just going to do a few slices, and that will look very nicely with salmon as well. Beetroot, as you probably know, is full of phytochemicals. It's a beautiful deep red colour, and it's because of those phytochemicals like anthocyanin that give it that pigment and flavour. It's going to have an earthy sweetness to it, and it's going to go very well with the rest of the ingredients, particularly the Puy lentils. I'm just going to wash my hands because otherwise it's going to look like a murder scene. And to this, we're just going to add a little bit of oil and a little bit of seasoning, and that's it. And that's just going to go into the oven for about 15 minutes or so. A little bit of salt, and give it a toss up. Salt here, and pepper. I mean, feel free to add other things. You can add, if you wanted to make it slightly spicy, a little bit of red chili flakes. You can also use some cumin seeds as well. That's fantastic for this sort of stuff. Let me know what you think as well, if anyone has any questions. What about foil being a no-no? Would it be better to use baking paper? You can use baking paper if you like. Just use foil because it's quite quick. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of scaremongering about loads of things that we do these days. I think, like, you know, as long as you're being mindful about how you cook things, you're not doing it on too high a temperature. Those are probably the most important things. Alright, so we're going to turn this on. Where's my thing? I should have probably turned this on at the start actually. Now we're going to start off with the Puy lentils because I like to cook the fish last because you want it to be nice and hot when you present it. You don't want the fish to sit there. You want it to rest a tiny bit, but not too much. I've only just used half the fennel and half of the beetroot. I'll put this over here because I don't want to use the whole thing. And I can use the same sort of thing for tomorrow's lunch and stuff like that. So sun-dried tomato is what I'm going to be using. This is the stuff that isn't in oil, it's just the dried sun-dried tomato. And we're going to add this to the oil in the pan and that will infuse a lot of its flavour. I love using sun-dried tomato, it's a beautiful ingredient and it just adds like, you know, a Mediterranean feel to the dish. We've got some garlic as well, so I'm just going to use, well I've only got 1 clove left, but I would use ideally 2 or 3. But yeah, I ran out of cloves, so you can tell this is live because I haven't really prepared for it. But this is what happens when you get back from work and you've got nothing else in your fridge. So you just got to work with it, people. So finally sliced it up. Oh, I was meant to put the tomatoes in the oven as well. I'm just gonna put those in there. Let's put this in. Okay, tomatoes in. Yeah. So for this, we're just gonna add some oil to a hot pan. Try and put your oil always into a pan that's warming so it warms through the oil as well. If you add the cold oil to a cold pan, it just everything takes a little bit longer. You can smoke the oil as well and that's probably not good for you. Well, no, it's not good for you because it creates inflammatory compounds. So you just want to make sure that you always put oil into a hot pan. It's what all the chefs do as well. It just makes the whole cooking process a lot easier as well. Alright, so whilst that's cooking through, I'm also going to just dice the shallot as well. So finely diced, finely as you can, just makes it easier to combine with a few lentils as well. And you'll notice with a lot of my cooking, I use lots of different herbs and spices. Now, obviously, the first reason is because for flavour, but the second reason is because this is where a lot of power comes through in our food. We have beautiful chemicals in these ingredients here that are responsible for tons and tons of health effects. Onions, for example, are full of things like quercetin, things like all the different antiviral compounds that confer benefits, which is why whenever I have a cold, for example, I always use onions, garlic, ginger, these sorts of things in a broth, because there is actually evidence that it does have an anti-inflammatory effect, and plus all the other things like the minerals and vitamins that they contain too. So that's going to be that. So we're just going to slice it lengthways and then slice it across as well. It doesn't have to be too particularly pretty, it just needs to be fine, that's all. Okay, go right there as well. Okay, so this is what we're looking for. Just finely diced, fine as you like, and I'm going to pop that in there. And you should hear the onion sizzle just slightly. Everything I cook really is on a medium to low heat because it doesn't need to be overly hot, and it just makes the whole process a lot smoother as well. So yeah, I'm going to add the onions and the sun-dried tomato and the garlic as well. Stack that there, and just let the flavours infuse the oil. I'm going to do these. Just give it a little stir. And at this point, I tend to add a little bit of salt as well, just to, again, heighten the flavours of all the different ingredients we have. So yeah, it's all like whenever I cook, it's all about building flavour on top of flavour. And all these different ingredients do have the medicinal benefits. They do have a purpose for flavour as well as function. So that's why we tend to use them, and also because it just makes the whole process a lot more pleasurable. There's no point me forcing food down you that I know is going to be good for you, but it doesn't confer like a flavour or anything like that. So I've just popped a little bit of chilli in there because I love my chilli. And yes, chilli contains things like vitamin C and anti-inflammatory compounds and capsaicin and stuff like that. But for this purpose. Like I've used such a tiny amount, it's unlikely to have like a massive effect on vitamin C levels, for example. So it's important to be aware of that. Okay, so for the Puy lentils, we're just gonna open this packet and then pour this in. To prepare Puy lentils from scratch, super easy. All you need to do is 1 cup of Puy lentils, add it to some cold water, let it sit there for about 20 minutes. It's quite an important aspect of cooking with lentils and stuff like that, because it reduces things like the anti-nutrients, so phytates, tannins, stuff like that, that can actually bind to nutrients. Anti-nutrients are not a bad thing. They are they're well recognised to be cancer fighters, anti-inflammatory. They're actually very good for you. So there's a lot of scaremongering on the internet about how bad anti-nutrients are, but actually they do confer benefit. It's just that they're in too high amounts in raw beans, legumes, pulses, that kind of stuff. But these are cooked anyway, so we're just gonna, and so after you soak them, you drain all that water out, then you cook them 1 cup to 1 cup of water, about 20 minutes. In the case of Puy lentils, different lentils take different cooking times and stuff like that. So yeah, table salt or rock salt, better for our health. I would say rock salt, sea salt, from a flavour point of view as well. Table salt, I'm not a big fan, mainly from a flavour point of view. There are some health concerns as well about using table salt, but I'm not aware of any clinical trials comparing table salt versus sea salt, to be honest. I know what's really interesting is miso, for example, has been tested to see whether it does have a hypertensive effect. And what they found is that it doesn't actually have, it's pretty neutral when it comes to a hypertensive effect. And whether that's because it contains other compounds, other different sorts of phytochemicals like ginseng and others that evade my mind right now, but whether it's because of that or whether it's because it's a different type of salt, I'm not too sure. But I know that miso is a good flavour agent as well, so I do put that in things like stews and even pastas and stuff as well. Alright, so we're going to go over about probably a cup of Puy lentils, maybe a little bit more. I'm just going to mix this through. The other thing I want to add, just mix that through. It really, honestly, it really does not take long, this. Because, obviously because the Puy lentils are cooked. Another thing you could do is just add some, after this is cooked through, just add some chopped spinach, put that through, adds another layer of flavour, another layer of nutrient density, and if you just cover it, take it off the heat, it will just slowly wilt in the heat of the Puy lentils. So it makes a much better texture than either having overcooked spinach, which no one likes, or undercooked spinach that is just a bit, the texture's just off. So yeah, so this will literally take about 60 seconds. What I'm going to add to this are some beans, some green beans. I've got, I think these are broad beans that are, these are actually frozen, but don't get frozen if you can. Get the fresh broad beans that are in season right now. Absolutely fantastic. It's so easy to cook with. I make it into hummus. I've used it in my cookbook as well. If you want some ideas about seasonal eating, that's all in there as well. I think it's a great ingredient. I'm using these frozen because I didn't get a chance to pick some up today. But yeah, these are just going to go in with the Puy lentils that I've been cooking for about 60 seconds literally. And then all you need to do is just toss these around. And then I'm going to cover it and then take it off the heat. And that light heat will cook through the beans as well. So you're adding yet another layer of flavour as well as protein. These are Puy lentils are one of the best sources of fibre you can get, or lentils and beans in general, which is something that we really lack in our Western diets. Because if you look back, if you're talking about ancestral eating is quite popular these days. We'd be consuming in excess of 90 to 100 grams of fibre in a day, and in fact a lot of communities that live in sub-Saharan Africa are still eating that sort of amount of food, or fibre. So I would certainly, I'm a really big fan of lots of fibre in your diet because it has so many benefits on the gut microbiome, on things like cancer, on things like blood sugar regulation. There's so many different benefits of it. So definitely get this sort of food into your diet as much as possible. Okay, so we'll stir this through. That's nice and warm. I'm just going to get my pan lid. Okay. Now how long has this been cooking for? This probably been cooked for about 5 minutes or so. Okay, so we'll take that off the heat, and again that little bit of heat there will be enough to cook through the rest of the beans that are frozen, and they're cooked as well. So for now, we're going to get on with our salmon. So again, with the salmon, you want to get your pan nice and hot before you put your oil in it. In this case, we're going to have it on a medium heat rather than a medium to high heat. And with the salmon, I've just picked this up from the fishmongers. You don't need to use salmon for this meal either, by the way. Like if you are vegan or largely vegetarian, you just fancy a vegetarian meal, this has adequate amounts of protein. If you just have this in a bit of a higher amount, adequate amounts of protein, lots of fibre in this, and obviously different phytonutrient density as well. We've got beetroot, we've got fennel, you've probably got like 3 portions of vegetables in this alone. So you don't necessarily need the salmon, but I'm copying the recipe that I had earlier this week. I probably have fish maybe once or twice a week, and meat every so often as well. But when I do eat fish, I do make sure it's the highest quality that I can get access to. And in this case, I've got it from the fishmongers, a beautiful piece of sashimi grade salmon. We're just going to oil it, season it, and skin side down for 2 or 3 minutes. That's all you need to do. We're going to go through the process now. So, first we're going to get a plate. Pop this on here. You know, in Saturday Kitchen, they always like have a go at them for touching raw food and like not washing their hands. I'm a big stickler for that. Like, I think it's really important. You have to wash your hands every time you touch anything raw. So yeah, it's a bit disconcerting to know that chefs don't do that all the time. I'll put this out of the way. Alright, so for the salmon, we're just going to use a touch of oil, and we're going to massage in some seasoning. So again, a little bit of salt. Always need to have a little bit of salt with your food. Don't be fearful of salt. I know there's a lot of information, particularly on the NHS website, about overuse of salt, and yes, it is important not to have too much salt, but don't let that stop you from putting salt into your food. It's the processed foods that have quite high amounts of salt, but it's probably the processed foods themselves that are having that damaging effect, as well as excessive amounts of salt as well. So that's why I'm always a fan of eating as much as possible in terms of like home food, like home cooking. But yeah, I wouldn't be too fearful of salt like a lot of people are. So we're just going to massage this around. Oh, you can't really see this, but I'm just massaging it into the oil, and then I'm going to put it skin side down for a couple of minutes, and then that's it, pretty much. This is the meal. As you can see, it's very relaxed. It's not rushed. I'm not in a... Well, I am in a rush, but I'm pretty relaxed with it. So salt, pepper, a bit of oil. It's going to go onto the pan. It's sizzling, so as soon as I put it down, it's sizzling. What I would do is just hold it down, just gently press, don't push it down, don't put all your weight on it. Just gently push it down with your fingers onto a dry hot pan, and this way it will stop the fish curling at the sides, because what happens is the fibres just bunch up, and then you don't get a nice char on the underside. You don't want a char, you want a nice brown, just a nice colour on that side. Charring, unfortunately, will cause like the black compounds, the carcinogenic compounds. So you don't want that. You just want a nice char on that side. So I'm just gently pushing it down, and when it's relaxed, when you know you can take your fingers off and you know it's not going anywhere, just take your fingers off, wash your hands, which I'm going to do. And what a lot of people tend to do in this situation is move the fish around. You don't need to move the fish around. I actually take this opportunity to just like clean up the rest of the kitchen, because you don't need to do anything at this point. Once your fish is in the pan, a lot of people like move the pan, move it around the pan. Just let it do its thing. It will gradually cook from the bottom up, and then you'll see on the top of the fish, the flesh will slightly go white on the top, and that's sort of like your cue to flip it over, and we'll do that in about 2 or 3 minutes or so. So just keep it going. If you have any questions at this point, you can shout at me. But yeah, where is my garlic? Okay, the garnish here. Pushing this side, just go that way. Okay, so all I have to do now is really just build my my bowl. I'll get ready to build my bowl. I'll wash this down. And I try to get at least like fish once or twice because it does have omega-3. Obviously, it's got a good source of convenient protein. It's got these beautiful fats in it. And unfortunately, in a vegetarian, well not vegetarian, but in a vegan diet, there aren't really good quality sources of long chain omega-3 fats that you need to get in your diet. So things like EPA and DHA. And fish like salmon, but also things like anchovies, mackerel, herring, I believe, they do have really good sources of omega-3 that are so essential for our brain functioning, for things like hormone synthesis, and even cell membrane structure as well. So if you are vegan, I would definitely have a word with your doctor, nutritionist. I would probably think about taking an omega-3 supplement from an algae source. I actually take one myself because I know that I don't get adequate amounts from my diet because I'm not always having fish on a weekly basis. So I just supplement with a little bit of algae, or I'm not affiliated with this company, but yeah, even I do it. I think it's probably a good thing for most of us to think about. Anyway, oh, where's my... So I'm gonna check on my roasted veg. This is coming along quite nicely. Yeah. That'll probably take another... So I just shook the pan there, did you see that? It's just like, you just can't help yourself, you just got to always shake the pan. Yeah, that'll probably take another 5 minutes or so. Just waiting around, really, like, you know. If anyone has any questions, just let me know. I'm going to put this up here. And all I've got to end is just the fennel garnish that we have and the lemon as well, just a little bit of lemon on the side of the fish. That'll be fine. Okay, let's have a look at our fish here. I'm just using a plain simple fish slice. I would use something like a wooden fish slice or something that's more natural, I suppose, because this can melt, and that kind of melt. You don't want that melty flavour, melted plastic into your food. But this is a metal frying pan, so it will just scratch if I use a metal one. So, okay. Alright, so our skin is absolutely beautiful. I'm not just blowing my own trumpet, but it looks fantastic already. Here. I mean, that's the exact kind of colour that I want. It's not black, it's brown, it's got great overall colour to it as well. And yeah, it smells fantastic. It's literally going to take about 60 seconds now on this side. What a lot of chefs will do, and this is why salmon tastes so good in restaurants, is that they'll put a little bit of butter in now, and then they'll baste the fish with the butter and all those flavours, and a little bit of garlic as well. But I don't have time for that. So no, we're not going to do that today. But yeah, this is, I mean, literally another 30 seconds and we're done. So that's why I try and take salmon. You can do this sort of cooking technique with lots of different things, really. You can do it with John Dory, you can do it with mackerel even, and you can do it with one of my favourite fish, which is haddock. And it's just super simple to do that. Monkfish is another really good thing, but I would probably roast it for a little bit longer as well, because it's quite a thick, meaty fish that you need to cook through. So I've got my bowl here. I'm actually going to just start building everything up now. So we're going to put our Puy lentils and our broad beans. Super, super simple. This is going to be the base. I don't know if you can see this. Maybe it's better if I put it here. Better if I put it here? Yeah, I'll put it there. Alright, so Puy lentils and the beans. This is forming our base. Okay, probably enough there. On one side. This is going to be quite a filling meal for even me. I'm quite a big eater. Okay. So this is all we need for our salmon. Alright. Just let any excess oil drip off. That goes there. And take this off the heat. We're going to put a little bit of lemon juice on the top here. I'm just going to leave a slice on the side for presentation, obviously. And having a source of vitamin C is actually great when you have greens as well, because it actually aids the absorption of the iron in greens as well. It's actually one of those things that a lot of people they used to tell me about, actually. Growing up, I never used to believe in them. Actually, I found out there is some truth in it. So I'm going to put some of the fennel over here, and then I'm going to check the roast veg. That should be done about now. Let's put this here. Okay. These are pretty much ready. Okay. That's it. And then it's just really a case of just building it. So we've got, just going to cut this off. Got lovely roast tomato, that's gone everywhere. We've got some fennel. Just going to go on the side. So we've got beautiful beetroot. Beautiful piece of fennel on the side, great flavour, it's nice and soft. I like having a little bit of bite to the vegetables, so you don't overcook it, but you cook it enough that it actually releases some of the wonderful compounds they've got in it. Okay, I'm going to pop that here. Gorgeous. So, that is pretty much it. Let me pop this out of the way. Just here. Okay, so that is it. That is dinner cooked in what, 22 minutes, I think. And we have pan-fried salmon with roast beetroot, fennel, and some beautiful Puy lentils and some beans, some green beans that you can't actually see because they're covered with all the vegetables that I've managed to put into this. So I hope you enjoyed that. It was a bit impromptu, but yeah, this is super easy to make. I hope you make it at home. I hope you make your own recipes. And my book, The Doctor's Kitchen, is coming out next year in January, but you can pre-order it on the link on both Facebook and my Instagram, Doctors_Kitchen. Have a great evening, and I will see you guys again soon. See ya.
Happy, spinning, clapping, laughing, dancing in the blackness of magic. Get it, have it, bag it, throw yourself on the